Hello and welcome to the Command Tower, where we discuss all things Commander. I'm your host, Ben.
And I'm your other host, Cameron.
And today, we're starting our general set review. We're going to rate all of the commanders from Akroma to some general that starts with Z. But today, we're going to be starting out with the white generals. And we're going to be doing Akroma up at the top through all the way down here at Jareth. Leonin Titan.
So, the order we're doing it in is first we're doing the white generals, then we're going to blue, then black, then red, then green, and then we're going to do the multicolors.
In whatever order we feel like, essentially.
We're going to finish off with at the very end, we're finishing off with a brief, colorless, and 5-color general talk. But first, we're going to start with the white generals, starting with the great general Akroma.
Akroma was the best creature when she came out. You look at her abilities, she has flying, she has first strike, she has vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from 2 of the best removal colors at the time.
Yeah, and I started playing in Onslaught Block, specifically the set Legions, which is where Akroma Angel of Wrath was originally printed. And when I first saw her, I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome, especially against Phage the Untouchable.
I'm guessing that's what Magic was like back then. I wouldn't know. I came in at World Wake.
It was Phages bashing into Akromas, and it was excellent, at least at my casual table.
Okay, but compared to all of the legendary creatures of Magic, Akroma's age is kind of showing, unfortunately. And I hate to say it. Like, I love Akroma. I play her in my Reanimator deck. But she's been outclassed.
At this point, she's not the best legendary angel, even.
She's not number 1 anymore.
No. She's still number 1 in my heart and in collector's numbers for everything.
But as we said, Akroma's kind of been outclassed.
Yep.
She's still very good, and that makes her a solid B plus general.
Yeah, I would call her a B plus general. If you look at her stats, she's a 6/6. That means that she kills someone in 4 turns when she hits. But unlike almost every single other general out there, especially the white generals, she has haste, so you don't have to untap with her to swing.
And you don't even have to tap her to swing.
Yeah, she has vigilance. She's got trample. And she's got evasions from demons and dragons. Actually, from black and red, more so.
You're thinking Baneslayer Angel.
Well, she's got protection from demons and dragons being black and red creatures with flying.
There's some other color dragons. But yeah, she has protection from a lot of decks. She fits into a lot of decks. But she's not exactly the best general. So
I would still definitely play her as a general, simply because of how big she is, and she beats face really fast.
Yeah, she's a very good general. Solid B+.
Yep. So moving on.
Our next general is Atalia, Samite Master. And
so
Atalia's a little innocuous, I think.
Okay, so she's 5 mana, and she's a 2/3. That's small. You're not going to be winning by beating people down with your general, like you are with Akroma.
Yeah, Atalia will probably never attack. Close to never attack.
Yeah, she's a 5 mana 2/3. She's not attacking. So you wouldn't be playing her for her stats. You'd be playing for her ability, which prevent X damage to a creature or gain X life spending only white mana, so you can't use your soul rings.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could only use white mana. That's a little limiting, especially when this format, almost every deck starts out with a soul ring.
Yeah.
And I would suggest every deck have a Mystifying Maze and like a couple of other cards a couple other colorless lands that are very good.
But looking at Atalia, she
She gains you a bunch of life.
When when
That's
you're
what she does.
when you're not doing anything, she's got an ability for you.
Yeah, she always has an effect for you, but
But that's not,
that's not the effect you want.
yeah. Gaining life in Commander when you already start at 40.
It's worse than gaining life in a 20 life format, in a 60 card format. Like it's just you already have enough life. You don't need to be gaining more.
Yeah, so she's pretty useless. She does do funky combat tricks.
Yes, she does make combat very difficult for your opponent.
Well, not even very difficult, just a little.
Like she's also predictable. Like you know that she's going to be happening.
Yep.
That your opponent can play around her. But if your opponent has like a worm coil and you have 6 mana up, it's not like they can attack you. But
Yeah,
that's we're at this point we're making up cases to make Italia good.
yeah, so I'm gonna give her like a D plus that she's people aren't going to remember games you play with her.
Yeah, I think I'm giving her a C minus. Like she's below average, but she's not actively bad. Like she's not actively a bad general. Like gaining a bunch of life, you can make your deck based around like your life total. Like you can play like Storm Call of the Storm Herd, I think. The put X tokens into
Oh,
play.
yeah, where X is your life. No, but that's just a good card in EDH in
Well,
general.
yeah, but then you can play like the two of Johnnies, and you can play. You can build your deck around her, and I think that she's a C minus when you do that. When you
Yeah,
have all of the cards that work with her.
but I think that there are better
Yeah, well, yeah, there
generals.
are better things to be
Yeah.
doing.
I think that there's simply better generals to be doing that strategy with too. So
Well, we'll see as we get farther
we'll see.
along.
We'll see. So Kitsune Mystic, just as a note, is an illegible general because it starts out as Kitsune Mystic, which is not a legendary creature. It's one of the flip cards from Kamigawa. We're not talking about it. It doesn't work as your general.
Yeah. Next up is Avacyn, Angel of Hope, and God, is that awesome. That
Yep.
ability, she is. Okay, so first of all, she's an 8/8, so she is a 3-hit general.
Yep. And she has vigilance and an evasion ability with flying,
Oh, and all of your permanents are indestructible. Yeah,
by
that
the
too.
way, including herself.
Including herself. This is so good in white.
Yes. Don't care that it costs 8 mana. You play it, and your opponent needs to play Wrath of God, or not even Wrath of God. They need to play Path to Exile to get rid of Avacyn. They need to
They need to exile her.
they need to exile her.
And then they need to deal with her 2 turns later.
Yep.
Avacyn is just so powerful, but I haven't tried her as a general. I know that she's good in a reanimation.
She's a great reanimation target, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
a lot of these white big angels are very good reanimation targets, so I don't know how they are as a standalone general, but I have to imagine Avacyn is an A minus.
Yeah, A or A minus. She's
You get all of the wraths. You get all of like
yeah,
you get wrath, you get day, you get planar cleansing, you
you
get
get all of the wraths except for Final Judgment, the one that exiles all creatures,
yeah,
and you win because you don't care about your wraths. Your opponents can't play anything.
yeah.
So
So Avacyn,
I give
A
her an
minus.
A. Ben gives her an A minus.
I give her an A minus because I know that something else that's better is coming up,
Okay.
and I don't think that she's in the same ranking. Next up is Brigid, Hero of
Bam.
Kinsdale.
So looking at her stats, she's 4 mana for a 2/3, which is already better than Atalia, was the 5 mana 2/3. First strike, that's a relevant ability.
Yep.
And tap, deal 2 damage to each attacking or blocking creature target player controls.
So this is kind of like a combat pyroclasm.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We were talking about how Italia's a C minus general. I would call Brigid like a C plus B minus general. Uh,
Yeah, I'd
she
have to agree.
um she is basically a 4/3 when blocking with her ability and her first strike. Um, she she makes combat really hard for your opponents.
Well, Okay, so here's the problem that I have with Bridget. I don't think that she's as good as you think she is. I think that she's a C general, like maybe a C minus. The problem that I have with Bridget is that she is only good against certain decks,
What?
and they're not the decks that I see people
All
playing.
right. So, but when you think about like a multiplayer game, if so, say you're Bridget, and
I'm Bridget? Okay.
you're Bridget, and there
Fat
are
Gifkin head.
there are three other players at the table, and one player attacks another player that's not you, and they're blocks. After that, you can tap Bridget and just board sweep someone because a lot of their creatures will have been dealt damage, and a lot of people just it it makes their combat really difficult.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think that she's a C. Um, I just I don't see people playing decks where she's good, and if you are messing up people's combat, people will attack you. Like you're gonna mark yourself as a target if you're messing up their combat between each other.
I mean, obviously you're playing her in a very defensive deck,
Yeah,
in a don't touch me deck.
yeah, and I think that there are better generals for that.
I think that she's a fine general for multiplayer and 1v1 for that matter. That she makes it so that you can't attack someone with your small creatures, although small creatures aren't as important in EDH as they are in 60 card. She makes she basically gives -0, -2 to all of your opponent's attacking creatures, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, I
And
mean I'm still pretty solid on her being a C. I don't. I mean I guess when we're comparing her to Cho-Manno, she's a C plus, but she doesn't feel that good to me.
I think that she's either a B- or a C+.
Okay. Well, our next general,
Well,
moving on, we can't do Bushy Tenderfoot, unfortunately. As you can see, he's not a legendary creature. So, moving on.
so Celestial Kirin.
Now, this is one of those. There are a lot of legends in Kamigawa. It was the legends block, but a lot of those legends involve spirit and arcane spells. We've looked up the number of arcane spells. They're not that many.
Yeah,
They're only in that block, and they're not generally that great.
yeah. So I mean, but it's both spirit and arcane spells. So the first thing with Celestial Kirin, its stats: 4 mana, 3/3 flyer. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Its ability is just not good simply because of the number of spirits and arcane spells there are in the game. The good spirits are arcane spells, that is.
Also, this is a you can't cast a spirit or arcane spell with converted mana cost 4 when she's on the table because you'll destroy it.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's a her or it's a kind of like fox thing, fox rabbit sheep.
it's a Kirin, which I believe is supposed to be a fox spirit. I could be wrong.
I don't know. It looks like Vulpix from Pokemon.
And
Point is, like, she is just or it is just extremely limiting in the scope if you want to take advantage of its ability. If you just want to have a 3/3 flyer for Forester General, there you go. And you can maybe get a random spirit interaction.
yep. Uh, I would say that she's just a C, flat C.
Yeah, I think that she's a C, and I'm going to go back and retroactively change my answer on Bridget. I think that she's a C plus. I've got a feeling that we're going to run into a lot more of these uh, legendary spirits from Kamigawa that just don't do anything,
Yeah,
and they're all C's most likely.
we are going to.
Moving along, we've already talked about Cho-Manno.
Yep, she is in our rating system video.
Video. But just a quick recap. She,
He.
he is extremely defensive, and he's just not very big. He doesn't do what you want him to do.
Unless you stick Pariah on him, in which case he's great, but that's one card in your deck.
Yeah, there you need to be doing something about better. A better general would probably be the next one, Commander Isha.
He is excellent, but not amazing. He you stick swords on him and swing. If you're trying to be aggro, you leave him back to block if you're being defensive. He works both ways.
Yeah. Uh, Commander Isha he's a pretty good general, but he's not like he's a very good general, don't get me wrong. He gives you protection from other people's generals, which is a big deal.
And he also with flying, that's also very important because a lot of people love playing like the three color dragons as their generals.
Yeah, and people like playing their Kali of the Vast decks. People like playing like all that kind of stuff. They like playing flyers as their generals. They like having evasion in their
Yeah.
general.
And Commander Isha just
Just
stops
stops
them.
them. He stops them hard, like real hard. And if you can give him vigilance somehow, like say with any ability in white that gives vigilance, you'll be able to, just attack and defend.
Yeah.
I'd suggest playing an Akroma's Memorial and a couple of equipment in Commander Isha's deck.
Yeah, and an important note, with protection from creatures, it's pretty obvious. Like people know that they can block creatures indefinitely without dying. But another thing is if something has protection from something, they can't be blocked by those things. So Commander each has protection from creatures, which means he can't be blocked by creatures. So
Yeah,
it's unblockable.
yeah, he can't be blocked, he can't be dealt damage, and he can't be targeted. So if your opponent has an Inferno Titan with a Basilisk collar on it, because that was really cool back in Standard, Commander Isha can't be targeted by that, and so his Inferno Titan will just block and deal no damage to it, and he won't gain any life in the combat.
Yep,
Um, Commander Isha, I think that he's a B.
I think he's a B minus. That's close.
Yeah, I think that he's as good as Thrun as far as like a commander
I think
goes.
slightly worse
So
than Thrun, but
anyway, as we said, we do have different opinions.
so going to Krovax, 6 mana, 4/4, pumps your guys, makes other guys smaller, and has
He has a
save
protection ability.
himself. Yeah, a save himself ability. And 2 life is not a lot.
Now, here's the thing: Krovak's Ascendant Avensar is he's the white counterpart to Ascendant Evensar.
Yeah,
Or sorry, Ascendant Hero is the white half of Ascendant Avensar, and that guy had flying. Um, I thought that Krovax had flying, but he unfortunately doesn't,
no.
and that doesn't make him worse to me,
So
obviously.
so he's not that huge for 6 mana.
Yeah, a 4/4 for six that's not even that great in draft.
I mean, along with his other abilities, I would definitely play him in draft.
Well, yeah, he's a first pick in draft, but like the body on its own, when we're just talking about 4/4 for six, that's not that great.
No. So
But he has a mini Elish Norn on him.
he's got a pseudo mini Elesh Norn on him.
Yes, that's yeah.
He so a very important note is that it doesn't say you control or you don't control. So it's
Oh
all
yeah.
white creatures get +1/+1. So your opponent's white creatures will also have +1/+1. Non-white creatures get -1/-1. So all of your artifact creatures will be getting -1/-1.
Yeah, you can't exactly curve out this guy in a mere battlesphere and be happy.
No.
But he does have a protection ability, and if you do want to keep your general alive, paying 2 life to return him to your hand is a very small cost.
No. So this guy definitely goes into like a very, very aggressive deck, I would say.
I mean, 6 mana is a lot for an aggressive deck, though.
But this is EDH. 6 mana is not a lot.
Yeah, I guess. Um, Krovax he's good, and I think that he's probably a B minus.
B minus? Yeah, I see B minus too.
I mean, maybe the bounce ability is just a lot better than we think it is, but I don't like it's a very good ability, but I'm just not sure exactly how good it is.
So what's nice about the bounce ability is that it doesn't cost mana to use, and life is a pretty cheap resource in EDH. So you basically only ever have to cast Krovax from General Zone once. So unlike almost all the other generals, he's still going to cost 6 for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and it's very good because if you're playing white, you have access to wraths. You can bounce him in response to the wrath. You can bounce him whenever,
Yep.
and that you can do it on the turn that he's entered play. Also, that's very good. So, but yeah, I think Krovax is I think
B
he's a B
minus.
minus. Moving on, we have Darian, King of Kildoran. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Geldor? Geldor,
Yeah.
maybe?
If someone can pronounce it
Put it
phonetically in the comments, we would love that. Now,
Oh,
he's another 6-mana general.
he's a 3/3, not a 4/4.
Yeah, a little bit smaller, but God, this guy punches back hard.
Yeah.
Whenever your opponent hits you,
Whenever
whenever you're dealt damage. So if you're using, well, I guess you can't use the pain lands, but if you have a source that deals damage to yourself, then you're going to get soldier tokens, and that's very good.
that's if people are trying to kill you, that's a lot of tokens really fast.
Yeah, and if say your opponent hits you with let's go with Avenger of Zendikar. He hits you for 5, and you're going to get 5 1/1 tokens. He's not going to be able to hit you for the next 5 turns.
Yeah.
He's going to keep running into his chump blockers, or you can just trade with your 5 soldier tokens.
Yep.
The next combat is so difficult for your opponent,
Especially if you're running anthems in this deck, like
Yes.
Glorious Anthem, Honor of the Pure. Instead of getting that many 1/1 tokens, getting that many 2/2 tokens or 3/3 tokens.
And you can play Krovax, you can play all of those effects.
Yes, Grovax.
Throw all of the white legends into one deck. But Darian, the thing is, he's purely reactive.
That's true.
He doesn't jump ahead of your opponent and deal with the problem before it happens. The problem has happened, and if your opponent is swinging for lethal, like if he's alpha striking,
That doesn't.
Darian's not going to save you.
An important combo with Darian is him plus Lich's Tomb, which is a 4-mana artifact. Says you can't lose the game if you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life, and whenever you're dealt damage, sacrifice that many permanents. And in almost every scenario other than Darian, Lich's Tomb
It'll destroy you. It'll just eat you.
It does it, yeah. Well, it doesn't save you because you're sacrificing so many permanents. But with Darian, you're dealt that much damage, so you create that many 1/1 tokens, which you can then sacrifice to Lich's Tomb. So you will never lose to combat damage.
Yeah, I mean
Damage in general.
And that's good for a bit, but we can assume that one of those will get dealt with at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
Lich's Tomb is not a good card. We're not suggesting that. I would suggest that you try it and see how good you think it is, but I wouldn't try it personally.
I would definitely try it.
Darian, I think that he's very good. I think that he's probably a B. He might be a B plus.
I would say he's a B plus.
Yeah, he hits back so hard. He hits back usually twice as hard as your opponent hit you.
Yep. And I would say that I would play him in an aggressive deck, not a defensive deck.
Yes. Because you want
to get hit.
Yeah, you want them to hit you back because you're hitting back again. And on top of that, the soldiers will be able to attack on your turn after. They'll hit you, then you'll go through your upkeep phase, so summoning sickness will be gone, and they can just attack.
Yep.
It's not like that you have to wait through a combat step or anything. Anyway, moving on. 8.5 tails. Okay, this is
2 mana 2/2. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a grizzly bear.
Yeah. 8.5 tails it's very interesting. You can build 8.5 tails very defensive, or you can build it extremely aggressive.
I'm not sure how good it would be extremely aggressive. It just can definitely be. Defensive.
I've seen decks with 8.5 tails where they win on turn 6, which in EDH is an extremely fast call.
Oh yeah, that's incredibly fast. So let's see. 2 mana, target permanent you control gains pro white until end of turn.
That'll randomly work by itself.
That will randomly work by itself. I mean, people play white all the time in EDH. They love
their Swords to Plowshares.
And then one colorless mana, target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. So combined together, it's three
Your
mana.
creature gains protection from a permanent or source.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like about Eight and a Half Tails is that though its mana cost is double white, its abilities don't just cost white mana. So you can be playing, all of your utility lands and not have it affect your ability to use Eight and a Half Tails.
Well, it'll you prob if you're playing all of the utility lands, you're not going to be able to. The likelihood drops of you being able to cast 8.5 tails on turn two.
Yeah, but you guys get what I mean. Like this is
It means that you can drop your Soul Ring on turn one
yeah,
and still be happy on turn two casting 8.5 tails.
yeah. Eight and a half tails is, it's pretty good, but it just comes down to how many times you can use that ability.
Yeah.
It's Eight and a half tails is clearly best in the mono white on mono white mirror, but I don't think your opponent's going to agree to a game with that.
No, they're going to look at your general and be like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, do you're expecting to play this game? But final note, I think Eight and a half tails is probably like a B minus.
B minus. I was thinking. I don't think that its protection is as good as Thrun
Or say Progenitus.
or they project.
But where is the half tail? I see eight tails. I do not see the half tail.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, like
Maybe it's in the back. Maybe it's sticking out back behind him in the picture.
maybe. I don't know. I feel like I'm being lied to. I feel like it's just an eight tails.
It, there should definitely be a half tail somewhere. I mean, if you want to look up the flavor, but we're not looking at, well, sometimes we'll look at the flavor, but we're not looking at the flavor for that.
Ilish Norn, Grand Cenobite, is our next general. And wow!
All right. Hold on. Let's compare this to Krovak's Ascended Hero. Both of them have commas in their name. Both of them have 4 power. And then Elish Norn is just a lot better.
Yeah, you will always be willing to pay that extra mana for this difference. Now,
It's a 4 power difference on all of your creatures. It's
yeah, yeah. Think of it like this: all of your opponents are playing 1/1s, and you are playing 5/5s
for the same mana cost.
for the same mana cost. It is utterly absurd the kind of situations you get yourself in. It doesn't even though EDH is a big creature format, generally speaking, 4 points is 4 points.
Yeah, I mean, people are still going to be playing their 4/4s and their 3/3s in EDH, and when those suddenly become 1/1s and 2/2s, and yours suddenly become 5/5s and 6/6s.
Yeah, all of their utility creatures instantly die.
Yeah,
They're small utility
no,
creatures,
no more
like
birds.
their Ovenwell trackers, their Grim Lavamancers.
Yeah, no more Birds of Paradise. Talrun just kind of folds to it. All their drakes die.
But yeah, Ilish Norn, I think that Ilish Norn's an A.
I think so too.
I used to run Ilish Norn as my general. I later switched to Kemba Ka Regent. We'll talk about her later. But Ilish Norn did so much work in that deck, and I only changed it because I liked the smaller, more aggressive strategy. But Ilish Norn does that very well. Like you can play it in a big creature deck. You can play it in big white creature deck. You can play it in small white creature deck.
Makes your big creatures bigger, and it makes your small creatures bigger, and it makes your opponent's big creatures smaller, and it makes your opponent's small creatures dead.
Dead, yes. So Ilish Norn, easy A. I think, there's an entire cycle of these creators, each of which gives you a bonus and gives each of your opponents a negative. And they all have some random ability that corresponds with their color. I think that Ilish Norn is probably the best of them.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. That it's perfectly costed for its ability, and it also has vigilance too. How about that?
Yeah, a random white ability.
Random white ability. 4/7, that means it's hard to get rid of with combat. Not that your opponent's creatures will be able to get big enough with its Elish Norn's -2/-2. Uh, it's incredible on the defensive if for some reason you're losing still after casting it.
Yeah.
My,
I like Eilish Norn's just great, and we should probably move on.
yep.
We're fanboying a little bit too much here.
All right.
Faithful
Squire
Squire
doesn't.
again. Can't we can't use it.
Nope.
Frankie Peanuts.
Is
Um,
unhinged, so you're probably not going to be using him. But if you are, I love him.
yeah,
But
that's it's fun.
so let's see. What do you ask? You ask things like, uh,
Do you have this card in your hand?
uh,
Like
no, because that actually doesn't work.
that doesn't?
No,
Oh, what
because
do you ask him?
like you would ask him, uh, are you going to cast spells this turn?
Oh yeah, okay. And they have to, well, yeah, but then they can just say yes and cast spells.
Yeah, but then you don't do it. Like you can choose not to do anything or something like that. Or you can,
Yeah, well, okay. Um, could you like you could ask, will you cast spells this turn instead of attack?
well,
Or
this
will
is
you
this
attack
is
this
during
turn instead
this is
of
during your upkeep.
this is during my oh, this card's bad.